To please Allah, a chance to gain reward I will spend on you, he says, on all who spend in good cause. Good deeds are opportunities, sparkling bright and true, raising you in the sight of Allah and adorning Al-Jannah for you. So rush to earn his reward. Don't forget the oppressed. And when you go to sleep at night.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dear brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of A Time to Please Allah here on Huda TV live from Dubai. And this is your host, Ismail Bullock.
And this is your host, Gabriel Al-Romaani.
We have an exciting episode today. It's going to be an excellent episode. We also have some guests coming in, inshallah.
Yep.
So it's exciting. And we have they're young people, they're energetic people, and we want to hear from them, specifically with this topic, role models. We're talking today about role models and growing up, looking up to people, following people, imitating people, and so on. And it's such a big thing in today's world, in today's dynamic, media-driven world, that it becomes a problem when people have the wrong role model. And we'll try to focus. I think we're probably going to spread over a few more episodes, not just one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're going to try and focus today is, what is a role model, and we're going to look at the negative side first, because we find, unfortunately, that the negative role models seem to be the ones who are taken as role models, and people tend to follow the negative role models who aren't really role models rather than the positive ones. So we're going to kind of touch upon that, and inshallah, probably for the next maybe even 2 or 3 shows, we're going to show the people who are our real role models,
real
models.
Yeah, that's
inshallah.
true. So if you want to get in touch with us over the show, we do have a lot of comments, alhamdulillah, on Facebook, and you can check out our site, our Facebook site, A Time to Please Allah on Facebook, and also our personal pages. You can check our names, Ismail Bullock Gabriel Al-Romaani. You can always link with us.
It's important to mention as well, inshallah, last week we had a bit of an issue with the phones that should be fixed, inshallah, and we'd like to let the viewers know that, inshallah, we will have in the final segment of the show, so it's an hour show, so in the last 15 minutes of the show, inshallah, we will open the lines up for your calls. Obviously, throughout the show, you're more than welcome to send us on the Facebook page messages, but especially the calls, inshallah, in the final segment. Okay,
so let's start. Ismail, really fast. Growing up, who was your role model? Growing up.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think the typical role models. I mean, we look at unfortunately, it was the pop stars, the singers, the Hollywood actors, the typical. Without being stereotypical, it's not even Western anymore, it's worldwide. But you know what I mean? What a typical thing in the UK would be to look up to those people. So
Football stars,
obviously. So sportsmen, obviously the people you see in films.
Right. And actually, subhanAllah, research shows that people look up first to sports stars and then movie stars, believe it or not.
SubhanAllah.
Maybe it has to do more with being active and maybe more successful, while movies are a bit more unrealistic, right? So it's sports is a bit more realistic. And growing up, I used to really look up to the famous football players in the national team of Romania, And I remember, you'd wear like their jerseys, right? You just go and buy these cheap jerseys in the market, and you don't actually, maybe sometimes we couldn't even afford the actual jersey with the name, so we would like write the names with like spray paint or with markers, like different names of the different players. So, and you would be so proud that, you're wearing that name. SubhanAllah. But, speaking about sports stars, you'll find that a lot of them are not really the type of people that you would take as a role model, or that a Muslim would take as a role model.
So that's the thing. I mean, they look at them for the sports, and they say, "This guy's my." Unfortunately, they even say, "This guy's my idol." He's my role model. Yeah. But then, sometimes I think some of these people saw what these guys get up to, and it's not even hidden. It's in the public eye. then, you know, reality, they're not role models, you know. They play a good game of football, but then they're snorting cocaine, drinking themselves under the table,
weed,
all kind of weird stuff we don't really go into detail, you know.
Right.
So that's
and
not
usually
really
what happens is that a lot of these actions that they do, as you said, right, they come out. You know, recently we have some issue in Canada with one of our mayors, you know.
Oh, that was quite an interesting one.
So the thing is, it comes out, right? You know, you can't hide in the end. I mean, you know, being so famous, people see you everywhere. And obviously, you know, these paparazzis are everywhere, subhanAllah. So they snap shots and right away they shoot on the internet and people see it. So it breaks the hearts of many people, you know, because they look up to you. And then they lose all that confidence, you know, that they're, you know, it's like their idol, their image is destroyed. And that causes sometimes psychological imbalances, you know. And actually, in some cases, even might lead the people to do the same things that this person is doing, right? Because what he's doing, you know, it's not a big deal, you know, it becomes like denaturalized. Type. So let's look a little bit into the definition of
yeah, I mean, this is what I thought. I mean, I pulled up, you know, on the old Wikipedia. Just thought it would be interesting. Definition of a role model. A role model is a person who serves as an example or whose behavior is emulated by others. And it says here the term first appeared in Robert K. Merton's socialization research of medical students. Merton hypothesized that individuals compare themselves with reference groups of people who occupy the social role to which the individual aspires. So they look at them as being stars, rich, famous. So they wish to be like that. So they start to...
And being in a very materialistic world, people, they aspire to these superstars, movie stars, because, you know, they make a lot of money and so on. And subhanAllah, this kind of just popped into my mind. But the story of Qarun in the Quran, right? The people are, you know, kind of sitting and watching and pass by and flaunting his pride and his money. And, you know, so people are like, you know, we wish they would be like Qarun, you know what I mean? And what happened to him, subhanAllah. So, I mean, this is an amazing, you know, just a connection here. So, when it comes to role models, one of the things that I find when you look at trends with youth, you know, all you have to do is just go to the mall, for example, and you'll find the copycat, the exactly copy of a certain movie star or a certain, you know, sports star in the terms that, for example, the way that people dress, the way they do their hair, the way they talk even, and the way they behave, act, you name it, even the way they eat, to the point that, you know, a lot of these very, you know, seldom things, they're very, you know, there's like identical like that person. And you'll find, you know, 15 of you know, this actor and about 10 of this actress. And you know, if you can sit back and kind of watch the trend, you'll find an amazing, you know, dynamic of people with trends, you know. And then if the trend changes, someone else comes on the scene, you know, being a new movie star or a new sports person, then all of a sudden you find that the people start imitating now this new person, right? So it's something amazing to watch. And I kind of like, you know, remembering my old days, you know, because I don't want to sit back and laugh at them, or, you know, it is a problem. You know, we're not here to make fun of them. We're not here to say that, you know, look at these people, who are they, you know, because we were at that point in our life at some, you know, sometime. And I remember very well being a wannabe. And a lot of times it happens that, you know, Westerners, they want to be a certain type of group, and sometimes not even, you know, from their own ethnicity. They want to be like a different ethnicity, right? People know what to talk about. So, subhanAllah, I find that this is something very, you know, that we need to analyze because it's very important. A lot of people don't realize it. They don't open their eyes. And one thing that it has to do is that it's very easy to follow, right? It's so easy to just follow someone, you know. They give you who you are, how you should dress. You know, you don't have to think about how you should dress tomorrow. You know, right away you just look at this. Oh, how did this last, you know, person or sports person or movie star dress? I'll dress like them. How do they speak? I'll speak like them. How do they act? I'll act like them. So you as a persona, you're not forming your ego as to who you are. Who is this person? You know, who's their personality? They're actually just copying the ego of another person.
I mean, and some people will say, you know, okay, what's the problem? You know, it's just they're just dressing a certain way. It's not a big deal, you know, even for the Muslims. It's not a big deal. You know, I'm a Muslim and I believe. But I mean, I mean, there's so many hadith that emphasize that if you imitate
Yes. The disbelievers.
Yeah.
Specifically that.
من
Yes.
تشبه بقوم فهو منهم,
Now.
whoever imitates a people, he is from them. And the Prophet ﷺ said, you will be with the person that
You love.
you love.
Yes.
And
المرء مع حب. Yes.
and subhanAllah, and the Prophet ﷺ said, المرء على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. That the man is upon the way of life or the religion or the deen of his friend, his companion. So let each one of you look who he takes as a companion, as a friend,
yes.
or as a role model, of course.
Yes.
So it is, something that's quite serious at the same time, because no doubt, and you probably, being someone who studied psychology, it definitely does have a internal effect. It has a permanent effect on the person. It's not just simply a hairstyle
Yes.
or clothing. There is some other kind of love
Yes.
and aspiring and desire to be like those people that shouldn't really be there.
True. And it becomes sort of a deen, a way of life, actually, like a religion, right? Because everything you do in your life is imitating or being part of this so-called group, or even, subhanAllah, cult, right? So, and it has to do, you said something about friends, al-mar'u ala dini khalili, that peer pressure is so important. Who you are with around, those people are, around you, will influence you. Because imagine, you are the only person standing out. Okay, let's say there's a group of people who are following a trend already. And here you are, someone who might be very innocent, is new to this ideology or whatever, and then you start hanging around with them, right? Obviously, you're the one who's the awkward person, out, and you feel awkward. So psychologically, you are in a community. So let's say, for example, a Muslim comes from the Muslim lands, for example, or from a family that's very religious, and then starts mixing with a lot of people who are not very religious, who are following different trends and different role models which are not to be taken. And this person might be going to, might be in the same class as these people, right? And he can't, help it. It's just, that's where he was put. He's got to go to school and so on. At the beginning, you'll find some kind of, anxiety, and, he'll find that he doesn't feel very comfortable. However, after some time, because the pressure from the outside, from everyone around, everyone's looking at him like he's weird. He's not fitting in. He's not culturally yet adapted to the culture of the classroom or wherever he is, right? He will have to adapt himself. He will have to change certain ways so people, will like him, so people will understand what he says. They'll speak the same lingo. They'll have the same interest and so on, so they can actually have conversations. We as human beings are social creatures, right? And if we do not understand the specifics of this issue of following people, we can be in trouble, right? Because, you just want to fit in, right? A person wants to fit in, right? You see so many times little children, students coming in and saying, I just want my parents to leave me alone. I just want to, have friends. I just want to fit in. I just want to be popular, right? And this is where this whole things come.
I mean, subhanAllah, as we were talking, another hadith popped to my mind where the Prophet ﷺ, where he compared the good companion to be like the hamil al-misk.
I was thinking about this right now.
SubhanAllah, like the one who's
yes.
like a perfume seller.
Yeah.
Where he said, that either he will, get from him perfume, or at least he will leave smelling nice. And then he compared the bad companion, that, like the blacksmith.
Yeah.
So either the person's clothes will get the sparks when he's, grinding or the blacksmithing, and he'll get burnt clothes, or he'll leave with a horrible
smell.
Bonfire kind of smell in his hair and his clothes. And that's reality, because like you said, once that person gets in with a certain group of people and hangs around with them, he will slowly, first it will be the smell, as in he'll start to pick up some bad habits, and eventually he will start taking part in many of the bad things, so he'll get burnt, as they say.
Right.
So it is very important, subhanAllah.
And sometimes, and this is very, it affects a lot youth, because youth are not, they haven't formed yet their personality. They're still looking for, to figure out life, to understand what is life, what is culture, what is society, right? So they're still molding themselves. So that's all these ideas you said, they have a permanent, impact on who they will be when they grow up, when they actually become, in adulthood, and they are who they are. So this is something important. But what's shocking is that sometimes parents themselves who push children from a very young age to be like, they say, this is your role model. You should be like, this person or that person. And they even take them, sometimes I go to to get a haircut. And I see a little kid next to me with his mother in hijab, subhanAllah. And he's making like a mohawk and, putting like a weird, stars on his hair and all kinds of things. And he's wearing, some football shirt representing some superstar, football superstar, right? And, his mom's snapping pictures of him, being very proud. So that child sees that, sees the mother agreeing with that. So he's proud. He wants to please his mom, right? So that impacts him. And he realizes that, this is right. As opposed to, for example, imagine someone takes their child to the hair salon, right? And they say, mashallah, you get a nice haircut. This is from Islam to look good. Khalid bin Walid used to have hair like this, or Abu Bakr Siddiq, or something. Subhanallah. And you give a positive, model, and that reinforces the behavior later on, right? But subhanallah, I found that parents are pushing, their children to follow some of these role models that are so negative. Subhanallah. So it's very important for religious people, for people who understand life, who are able to look at this issue. And even though, in the so-called dunya view or the worldly view, you might feel like you're not popular, right? Oh, you know what? I'm not so popular. Parents tell their children, you have to be number one. Go out there, get it, be strong, be popular. Okay, for a person who understands the deen, it doesn't matter if you're not popular. Who cares? All that matters for a religious person, be it the parents or the child who's been taught Islam properly, is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased, it doesn't matter who else is angry. As the Prophet ﷺ's dua, we know that, as you make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it doesn't matter who's angry with me, as long as you are pleased with me. Subhanallah. And this is something very important. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharib, right? Be in this dunya like you're a stranger. And that's why when you hold on to the deen, people look at you like,
I mean, we'll obviously go into these stories in more detail, inshallah, in the next upcoming episodes. But if we just look at the prophets and the people of the past, they were always strange. They're always called crazy, magicians, madmen, loony. What we'd say now, Looney Tunes, whatever it is. They've always called those kind of names. So in a way, if you're practicing Islam and you're feeling this from the people, and you're getting those laughs and sniggers and pointing fingers, you should be proud in the sense of that, okay, yeah, it's a bit annoying, or sometimes a bit upsetting, but you have the happiness to know that inshallah you're on the right way.
You're on the right path.
I mean, I remember when I became Muslim in the UK, and I used to walk down the streets, and sometimes in areas where there weren't many Muslims, and I'd be wearing not that you have to wear certain clothing, but I was wearing certain clothing, and subhanallah, all kinds of stares, but I just always used to keep it.
That's funny. Inshallah, we'll continue when we come back. I want to hear there's a story, but we're inshallah going to a break, so stay tuned with us on Huda TV, and we'll be back after this break.
To please Allah, a chance to gain reward, I will spend on you, He says.
Reading the Quran is a blessing. Understanding its translation is beautiful. But diving in depth and extracting pearls from it is simply amazing. Do they not ponder upon the Quran? Every week, inshallah, we will dig deep and reflect on the verses of the Quran one by one.
Quran in Depth with Sheikh Ibrahim Zaidan, only on Huda TV.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. You're not giving it to him because he has black eyes or blue eyes. You're giving it to him because of his position. And that is why you're giving it to this particular department's head rather than giving it to the HR GM, for example. Nobody gives the HR GM anything because they don't want anything from him until they want a job. Therefore, this is the way you can judge whether it's a bribe or not. To get into a halal transaction, first of all, the bank or the financial institution should acquire and own this apartment before any commitment.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says, on all who spend in good cause.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back from the break. Before we go on, so as I was saying before the break, I used to, walk down the street in sometimes a thobe, sometimes a Pakistani shirt,
Oh, you weren't sure, kameez?
So,
Nice.
so it was quite interesting because people would stare, people would look, but I always used to say to myself, alhamdulillah, and we're not talking about, a Muslim in a Muslim country and he's practicing and everyone else isn't, so he feels a bit funny. They're talking about, that people in general are not Muslim, right. So they don't have any kind of real appreciation for you at all. At least the Muslim in a Muslim society, people look at him and say, some people think, oh, I wish I could be like him. Yeah. But it's not the case, obviously, over there. So anyway, it always used to make me, inshallah.
You feel like a stranger.
Yeah.
And you feel that,
hey,
at least I'm on the right path.
Inshallah.
Right?
Happy to be a stranger.
Happy to be a stranger. Well, I'd like to welcome to the show our guests and let them introduce themselves, please, to the audience.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdul Mateen Yusuf. I'm 17 years old and I'm a student in year 12.
Where?
In Dubai, in Cambridge International School.
Cambridge, cool. And?
Ismail Bullock, 16 years old, grade 10 in School of Research Science in Dubai.
Okay, so let's ask you guys right away. We'll drill you a bit today. Who are your role models?
Straightforward, huh?
For you guys specifically. Yeah. Who do you look up to?
I think in a contemporary world, I would look up to another teenage Muslim role model. So specifically for me, I look up to this brother called Hisham Al-Hadi, who's the son of Dr. Farhat Hashmi. So he does a lot of Islamic activities as well as workshop and stuff. So he's been some of the inspiration for some of the stuff I do.
Excellent.
In this contemporary world.
And we know Hisham. Good brother. How about you, Omar?
Well, for me, I don't really have one role model, but I have many, my parents, teachers, people that I interact with and that they, how to say this, like they teach me,
they influence you.
Yeah, they influence me and things like that. And about, movie stars and what everyone else looks up to, I honestly don't see the use in that because, it's just all a show, they're not really like that and anything, but if I would look up to anyone like that, it would be like sports people, like, people like sports because, they encourage you to exercise and things like that. And, there's also like...
But you guys are practicing, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
So maybe there was a time when you weren't practicing or, I don't know, maybe not. Were you looking up at were other people role models for you before you were kind of, decided, okay, I'm practicing Islam, or mashallah, maybe you're practicing throughout your whole life?
No, I think I've seen a lot of people who take movie stars and TV show stars and usually the Hollywood and Bollywood stars as their role models, and maybe they might not take them directly as role models. Maybe they might follow them subconsciously. They might keep watching, suppose, a TV series, and they might act the exact same way like the TV star acts. The way he talks with his parents, the way he talks with his friends, the way how he conducts himself, how he styles his hair, the kind of clothes he wears. So I think, I've seen a lot of people reacting in such a way once they continuously watch this TV episodes, even though they might not take them as role models directly, but subconsciously they do follow them.
What about? Do you think it's a dilemma, or it's hard for people of your age to have good role models? Do you think it's a challenge? It's as we would say, a fitna, a tribulation or a trial to try and keep a good role model? Is it difficult to balance?
It is, obviously, because what is a role model? A role model is someone who you can relate to, who you can look up to. If, for example, there are a lot of people that experience bullying these days.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of these Hollywood stars, they come out and they, after their fame, even though they might be a similar age of ours, they say we face bullying and we have achieved so much. Now we are millionaires. Now we are so famous. Everybody loves us now. So there is a way out of this. And because they hear all this stuff, which is positivity in a way, if you look at it, but so they are attracted to this stuff because they can relate to it.
Omer, let me ask you: in your high school, what's the trend? I mean, why do people follow, or who do they follow? Do they follow sports stars, movie stars? What's the trend in Dubai,
school,
for example?
In Dubai, I'm not so sure, but in my school, it's mostly football players and movie stars. Singers in my school, not that much. I mean, they listen to them and stuff, but they don't really, do as you said, wear their clothes or stuff like that. But mostly it's focused on, football stars and movie stars, that's it.
Movie stars. Is there a reason, why do you think people choose these role models? What's the reason behind it?
They want someone to follow, and they always say that, well then why don't they follow, for example, the Prophet, or, like what we should follow.
And these are mostly Muslims that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, mostly Muslim, but the thing is, they say, no one does that anymore, everyone's following this, peer pressure. Yeah, I want to be like everyone else, follow the same person, and people will think I'm cool if I do this, etc., stuff like that.
It's very strange because when I grew up, growing up, the trends were not that much different. What they're saying is pretty much what was going around in our own high schools and in our backyard. So it seems that this is something that's consistent throughout the ages. Obviously, the images change and so on, right? But the trends seem to be quite constant.
I mean, if you look at it as well, it's very materialistic stuff. Like Abdul Mateen said, for example, I think you mentioned the Bollywood, or whatever you might have said, the actors and actresses showing them, we were bullied, or even the Hollywood, we were bullied, and look at us now. But I mean, okay, look at you now. But the reality of it is, what are we looking at? It's not something like, look at me now. I studied a PhD and I found a remedy that helps to cure cancer, or I opened an orphanage, or I opened a program which feeds the hungry people in Somalia. Something really beneficial. A guy comes along and says, I've made 30 Hollywood movies with various nude scenes or something, not immoral scenes, and pretending to be a drug dealer, and in this one I was a mafia gang guy, and I'm now a millionaire. You can be like me. But it's not really, in reality, it's not really a role model, is it? They haven't really produced anything of any benefit,
The thing that's
really
confusing, though, and maybe you guys can, Omer and Abdul Mateen, you can jump in on this. But the thing that's confusing is that a lot of these people, as you said, their behavior is not very, you can't even say that it's Islamic, obviously, but it's not even moral in general, universally speaking. However, they do certain things, as you said, they speak about, for example, bullying. So they connect to the audience, and at the same time, they'll launch a campaign to feed some people in Africa or something, or a certain actress goes to India and Africa and so on and takes pictures. And alhamdulillah, inshallah, there's good that's being done there in this dunya. However, this is what confuses people, because in one scene they see her or him doing some certain weird immoral things, and then here's another scene where helping people. So the two are mixed, right? So the people are saying, well, but they're a good person because they're feeding the hungry. And what are you doing? Where are the Muslims? Where are you guys? Being as role models. Look what this person's doing. Yeah, we can look over their faults or whatever. Actually, people don't even say their faults anymore, because they can see that person is acting, but they're also doing all these great things and amazing things, and they get publicity in the media, so they aspire towards them. What do you guys think?
Definitely. I mean, people tend to look up to them because, like I said before, they relate to them. And like you said, there is a lack of role models that Muslims can emulate and try to look up to. And very few of them. Yeah,
but is the haram covered by the so-called goodness of these people that's being displayed?
It's a culture thing. Don't you think their culture is completely different than our culture? and
That's
what they think is right may completely be immoral and something completely unacceptable to us.
Well, maybe to Islamically speaking, but not to us, because people are accepting it. The Muslims are accepting it. That's what I'm trying to say. That they're confused, that they don't know. I mean, it seems that now it's it's become what they say. People say adi, it's just normal. It's a normal thing. Which is weird, because this word exists in psychology. You're normalizing something. It's just becoming something. Normalization it becomes something. You've been exposed to this impulse so much, right? You just keep seeing it, that. What do? You just accept it. You say, well, it's part of life. You know what I mean? So this is something very important. Again, going back to you guys, we're just drilling you guys, but we want to honestly hear from you. Why are people not taking Muslims as role models? Why do you think that's happening?
Well, as I said before, no one does it anymore, and also no one.
So it's kind of like old school, old stuff.
Not only that is no one teaches it as more. No one gives it importance. No one gives it significance. For example, like look at the world. What are they showing now? You go to the mall, you see movie stars. You see, you don't see the real role models. The teachers. They influence they don't influence as much as on those role models. Then even Muslim teachers, when they ask about role models, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, etc. In educational wise, and look at all the companions after they traveled, they spent their life, they spent their whole life, just traveling, learning about hadith, spent months and years and everything learning about hadith. Now this is real
seeking knowledge.
This is seeking knowledge.
Yeah.
This is
sacrifice.
So that's the thing. No one, the teachers, no one. Even the parents, they don't influence on it that much. They have to influence it more to make it important to the child.
Adding to what Umair said, when you look at Muslims as role models, if you're trying to look at the Sahabas and the people before us, there were some fantastic figures. Especially when you look at aspects such as bravery, courage, truthfulness, trustworthiness. In the media, in the current world media, there's a hype about Hercules, right? They're making movies about him, they're writing books about him, they're making cartoons about him, and such a brave figure he was, and such a powerful figure he was.
It's a fictional character.
Who defeated Hercules?
Okay.
It was Khalid bin Walid's army who killed Hercules' brother in the war when
Hercules himself, from what I knew, is a fictional character.
Hercules was like what they gave a pharaoh, like a title.
I see. Okay.
Heracles,
not Hercules. Hercules is from mythology. Okay. Mm-hmm. Heracles, yes, Heracles. Yes.
Yeah, Heracles. Yeah. Okay. So a group of 45,000 Muslim soldiers defeated a Roman army of over 200,000 soldiers in a battle.
True.
In Yamama, the Battle of Yamama. Yes. So these acts of bravery and courage, when have you ever heard such a thing occurring when a group of very poorly equipped and battered Arab warriors defeating the world famous
so you can almost
Roman
make a movie
army.
out of this, if from this story. But you raised a very good point, and that is that we're looking at Sahabas, we're thinking of Sahabas, and as you said, people say no one does that anymore. So it seems it's we don't have living role models like the Sahabas.
We don't have we don't have the role models. Alhamdulillah, we have to say that.
No, we do, but
the ummah is always khair.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
But we don't have those role models, and we don't have as many role models as we should to teach about the real role models.
Yes,
you see what I mean? We don't have the contemporary role models. Very, like we said, alhamdulillah, if channels like Huda TV. Imagine if we had so many more Muslim media, so many more Muslim, programs like this.
So it's an issue of frequency.
To counter.
True, yeah.
Even people, alhamdulillah, people are doing this, but even it doesn't have to be a TV station. Even the Facebook, for every Tom, Dick, and Harry opens a fan page for this group and spends his time posting pictures of this actor or this actress or this group. Where are the Muslims And many of the Muslims are doing that themselves. You have a Muslim guy, he's posting
Open.
hip-hop and he's shaving his eyebrows and putting earrings and he's coming on MC, blibbity blob, flibbity flob and all this kind of stuff, right? So, you know, simple things like the Facebook, if each one of us made a Facebook page, we put a hadith every day and we put an ayah every day, we'd be flooding Facebook with khair. But everyone's like, oh, alhamdulillah, there's that Facebook page that some other brother's doing, you know? I don't need to do anything, you know? There's some guys doing it, as if they're using the fard kifaya, you know? There's enough people doing it, so everyone else is... But at this time, we know that the scholars like Ibn Baz and everybody else, he said in this time, and he was talking 20 years ago when he was asked, rahimahullah, probably 20, 30 years ago, it's even worse now. He said, dawah, so this is a form of dawah, is an obligatory upon everybody now. Whatever you know, spread it, whatever you can. So you have the Facebook, you have the YouTube, upload a dawah video.
Do something.
Do something.
So we need to
combat these negativity role models.
Going back to what Umair said about, you know, no one does this anymore, you know. So it's outdated, supposedly, to people. And the frequency of the negative role models, the amount of negative role models, is just overwhelming. And we as Muslims have to bring more knowledge into the, you know, teaching our youth more. SubhanAllah, imagine people go to bed, parents, and tell their children stories about fictional stories that never, you know, existed. You know, right? About you know, certain
kings and
princesses and you know, and so on. While they could, and these are Muslims sometimes, while they could tell them a real story about Khalid bin Walid, and we'll talk about it next episode, but about real role models, right? And this affects the people. So we need to bring that knowledge. I mean, we're trying to identify a problem, right? And that's what I would say that, you know, based on what you said is really amazing. I'd say that, you know, we need to bring back the past, because it seems that we live in the past, right? If someone asks you to identify a Muslim role model, right away we speak about the Sahaba, the Prophet, of course, and this is given, but the Sahaba and the Tabi'in and so on. But we can't, even though yes, alhamdulillah, there are, however, they're not as popular and there's not as many that you can right away someone can say, you know, and point their finger at someone who's contemporary, who's really, really inspiring. Even though alhamdulillah, there are people, but what I'm trying to say, as you said, compared to the opposition, they're almost, you know, very small in number.
Doesn't that go against, like, because a lot of role models, especially, how would you look up to them as role models? Because you look at them through their personal lives, and a lot of sheikhs, like Brother Ismail told in the last episode of Time to Please Allah, that a lot of sheikhs don't like to talk about themselves. And but then because that happens, we have a shortage in real matters happening. I mean, of course, even sheikhs probably face bullying. How come no sheikh is talking about it? And no sheikh tells people, like, you know what, I face bullying, I came out of it, and I'm successful, and that is real success. I mean, they're scholars. They've given so many, written so many books, done so much research, given so many lectures, benefited so many lives, guided so many people back to Islam. So don't you think there's a
very good question? I mean, I'm kind of, you know, a bit stumbled here, but I was talking to a sheikh last week, and I asked him, Sheikh, why don't you record your lectures, right? And subhanAllah, of course, what happens is that people, you know, in Islam, you're supposed to be pious, right? And have, you know, to be a bit timid, and, you know, there's a certain way you don't flaunt yourself and have kibr, you know. But I asked him, and he said, listen, you know, even though, mashallah, he's at a very high level of scholarship, he said, you know, I'm not anyhow or anywhere qualified to be on video. Right? And I said, Sheikh, and there's khair, you know, people benefit from you. And I told him, I'm not saying that anyone's going to consider you to be some kind of a scholar or anything like that, or a big thing, but people benefit from you, and they'll take from you, while, you know, because there's not too many people that do it, and we need this. Excellent points. I like what you said. It was an excellent discussion, and we'd like to thank you for coming. And so, inshallah, we hope to have you again. It was very insightful, and hopefully we can talk a bit more later on. But we have to take a break right now. Inshallah, we'll be back with more about role models, and we'll take your calls. This is the time to dial. You see the number on the screen, and we'll check out the Facebook comments. So we'll see you after the break, inshallah.
To please Allah, a chance to gain reward, I will spend on you, he says.
فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم ثم لا يجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. There are 3 levels. Sister Rayhan from Bahrain.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Fahim from Sweden. السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم Sheikh, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, barakallah feek Fahim. May Allah bless you and your family.
Sheikh, I have one question.
Now, that is not allowed. Why isn't allowed? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ghasha falaysa minna." He who deceives or betrays does not belong to us. He's not one of us. A person who is given the sadaqah or leading the prayer does not have necessarily to be praying fard. Maybe he's praying the nafl, that is after the prayer, the 2 sunnah after dhuhr or after maghrib or after isha. And the follower, the imam, will be praying with the intention of offering the fard that he has missed. Okay, barakallahu feek.
Welcome to Tech Talk. I'm your host, Omar Shear. This season of Tech Talk, we will focus specifically on the internet.
A student would type their paper, and instead of handing me a hard copy of their paper, they would upload it to this learning system, this e-learning system.
I have some great experience when it comes to technology, and in particular, internet technology. Call to action is something that we do in our day-to-day lives, and maybe we don't realize it. Now we want to discuss, after you have a product and you have a website and you have a way to communicate with your customers, which would be your email marketing system, now it's time to take the money from the customer.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward, I will spend on you, he says, on all who spend in good cause.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Now, mashallah, we had a very pleasant discussion with the two
I like
guests.
these guys.
Yeah, inshallah.
And Omer and I, we have some history back with another
show you did on a different channel called
yeah.
Youth Issues, a couple of years ago now. I remember the other day looking at one of the episodes.
2 years now, right?
Yeah, you all look so, even you look so baby-faced in there, you know? Subhanallah.
Yes.
But yeah, that was very interesting, and it's interesting to, to have those.
It was nice. They brought up some nice points, especially Abdul Mateen and Omer. Also, it's something that really, sometimes I don't think about these things, and that's why we wanted to bring in youth, because they're the ones that are the most affected by it.
And we'd just like to sorry to cut you off there, of course. We'd like to mention that you can see the number on the screen now. Please don't be shy. Give us a call. We're waiting for your calls. Your input, inshallah, and your feedback is what really makes the show.
Tell us like your experience, your experience with role models.
Yeah, whatever comes to mind. I mean, talking about that. I mean, we've got some of the messages here on our Time to Please Allah Facebook page from Hafsa. I think this is obviously just a few odd letters. XCSFA. She says it helps when your group of friends are looking up to the same role models, which is true. I mean, we kind of touched upon that, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's very difficult to be a certain way and have friends who aren't a certain way, and like you said, or we both mentioned, to stay that way. It's very difficult, to keep yourself a certain way. You'll find yourself, falling away, basically.
Right. But what do young people such as her or these guys do? Because you want to have friends. Imagine you go to school and no one likes you, right? You want to fit in. So how do you deal with this issue? You know that your friends are calling you to the wrong path. specifically kids who are older, especially their age, these are teenagers, who already they've been exposed to Islam, they understand Islam, and here they are, they're put in a certain environment, and now they have certain friends who, are calling them to, to follow a certain path other than what they know is the correct one. So I mean, subhanAllah, it's difficult because now you have, either you're going to be an outcast, as we said, a stranger, or, you'll go ahead with the change and you go with the flow. So I think it's something very difficult that we as Muslims, as communities, we really need to look at. I mean, this is a problem. We've identified the problem without a doubt. But now there has to be some solutions.
We need, as communities, we need to create
alternatives.
We need to have, we have a show like this, for example, which we're hoping will cater to something the young people can enjoy as well as the old people, as well as adults or the teenagers, for everyone. But at the same time, the communities, wherever they may be, Muslim countries, non-Muslim countries, they need to provide alternatives. If they know that there is a youth club, specifically in the West, we talk about youth clubs, that get the youth together for, they play pool, they do something, and they keep them off the streets, but they also let them smoke and free mix and let them get up to mischief, then we as Muslims need to create other youth centers where, you'll play pool, you'll play football. At the same time, as you start, you'll have a 5-minute discussion about a particular hadith, something to, lift their spirits, lift their iman, keep them on that way. And I mean, as for the person, who finds himself surrounded, I mean, it's very difficult, like you said. They need the community, but if there isn't that community, there isn't that support, it really, and it can be hard as a teenager, but it really boils down to having that. You need to kind of have that, try and build your own character. And you do see people doing that. You will find that there may be the loner, I don't want to, advertise certain groups, but a loner goth, or a loner emo, or a loner punk rock guy. And he will walk around the school,
he's like the man,
doesn't give a damn, as they say. He walks around, he knows everyone's making fun of him, he feels
strong, actually.
He feels this is the right way, according to him. I'm proud to be like this. This is the way I am. I'm going to go. So if people could do that based upon some reality, just some man-made fashion that's come up for whatever reasons, a lot of it has some, some very bad reasons behind it, some very corrupt reasons behind it. But we should be the foremost. We should be proud enough to say, like we mentioned, we want to be one of the strangers. We want to be one of those people that, tuba lil ghuraba, we get this tuba, this tree in Jannah, that's how we should look at it. So if they can do it upon falsehood, upon man-made fashion and concepts, we have the divine concept, the religion given to us from the Almighty. So
and you should be proud, as you said, because it's a sign when you are a stranger, and we already touched upon this a bit, but it brought back to me the hadith of the Prophet بدأ الإسلام الغريب وسيعود غريب فتوبى للغرباء. كما قال الرسول. But it began as such. Islam began as a strange thing. People are looking at these people, these new people who are coming with this faith, calling to equality, calling to in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling to worship only Allah, to do righteous things, right? And people at that time, the society was not much different from what it is today. It was calling to zina, it was calling to theft, it was calling to many things. People were doing a lot of, there's a lot of ills in society at the time. And here's a group of people, standing up and saying, you know what? I'm not going to have a girlfriend. Today, if you go in high school and be like, some girl asks you out, right? It happens to a lot of the Muslim youth that I spoke to, right? Girls will go up to them and ask them to the prom or the dance, right? And the guy says, no, I can't. And they're like, oh my God, you're so weird. How can you? And all the boys, how can you return? How can you turn it down? She's the best girl in class. Everyone would, want to have a date with her or whatever.
Or they make crazy statements like, "Don't you like girls?"
Don't you like girls? What's wrong with you? You okay?
Yes.
Oh. So, that's something so important that it is something that the Prophet ﷺ already prophesied, and we should be happy to be part of that. I want to just touch upon, you mentioned upon youth clubs and youth groups. The community that I come from, alhamdulillah, in Canada, we have one in our masjid, and it's a very successful program, because we want to bring up some positives, we don't want to always just highlight the negatives. But as you said, they provide that alternative. The kids come to the youth club. There's pool, ping pong, Nintendo, everything. And sometimes some of the older generation complain. You know, say, oh, look, all these kids are coming to the masjid. And I tell them, like, listen, it's better they come here in the masjid, downstairs in the youth club, and they play here Nintendo and pool, whatever, than going down, you know, the corner of the street.
No, I mean, not just that. They'll be playing and they'll be coming up to pray.
To pray, yeah. It's so, because they close that. A prayer time, you have to go. It's part of the deal. You
then
come to the
otherwise, they're on the youth club. They hang around on the streets of the court. They're not praying, most likely. Yeah. And then, you know.
No, but I would say, you know, listen, if we don't open our arms for them, and the masjid, as one of the scholars said, it should be as, you know, it's not Jannah, that, you know, everyone is just purified right away. It is like a hospital, you know. You bring in sometimes sick people and you cure them. And the cure for this is, you know, being on the ibadah, praying, salah, Quran, them seeing the people praying. And subhanAllah, you find a lot of these kids, yes, they'll come in for the first month, 2 months, 3 months, they're still with weird ideas and still, you know, kind of streetish type of, you know, mentality and behavior. However, after witnessing the community praying, after witnessing them, you know, focusing and you know, being on the right path, you find that they themselves cannot help but go with the flow, right? And that's what we discussed about at the beginning, that if not, then they'll go with the flow with the other side. SubhanAllah, and the other side is always willing to welcome them with open arms, while sometimes we find people in our communities that, you know, are not welcoming, and they kind of keep the youth away and say, you know, these brats and these you know, youngsters, you look at what they become today. And subhanAllah, we need to understand that these kids and these youth, sometimes they're lost. And they're struggling with their identity. Who am I? You know, who am I? Who do I look up to? And here they are at the masjid door. We can't turn them down. We need to welcome them. We need to treat them. We need to work with them. We need to listen to their problems. And as the Prophet ﷺ, you know, did. SubhanAllah, when that boy, young man, came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said that, you know, give me permission to commit zina. Imagine they
did that now, you know, slapped in the face or something.
You get punched in the face, but, you know, or slapped in the face, you know, astaghfirullah.
Or you'd be like, get away from me, you know,
yes.
you know.
You're so dirty, or, you know, how
don't ever see your face again, you know, be shunned away forever.
Yes. But the Prophet ﷺ, what did he do? He spoke to him, he rationalized with him, he asked him some questions, and, you know, and listened to him, subhanAllah. So, I mean, this is, you know, inshallah we'll speak about the Prophet ﷺ and about his role model in the previous episode, in the coming episodes. I want to read a question. It's an excellent question. Shadi Yasin is saying, what is the importance of having a role model? And how can we reduce the effects of modern lifestyle and media? I mean, this is a very deep question, because modern lifestyle and media go together, right? Because modern lifestyle, it's pretty much, you know, it's given through the media.
Through the media.
Through the media, right? And I would say the obvious thing is, you know, a lot of people are attached to the TV too much.
Sorry, I want to say something here because it's popped in my head. The fact that, you know, you mentioned a lot of our culture is through the media. Yeah. And it amazes me that when many people see a person who's a practicing Muslim, he's been brainwashed.
Brainwashed, yeah.
But hello, you're sitting on the TV, you're taking your news only from certain media channels, right. You're taking your clothing generally from certain stars, you're taking, you know, whatever it may be, you hear that this food is cool to eat, you start to eat like this. This guy comes and says, I work out like this. Oh, so that guy's, he's like the best boxer in the world. Right. I have to train like him. So who's really brainwashed? In reality, I mean, let's be realistic here. We're saying we're following a divine, you know, you want to challenge the divinity, let's have a intellectual discussion. Yeah. Let's look at the proofs and etc. and come to a conclusion. You know,
but you find most people will not entertain such a rationale, you know,
that's the problem.
Type of discussion.
So if you really look at the brainwashing, it's the person who sits there and just goes with whatever is on TV, whatever's in fashion, you know, goes with the flow, you know, follows the sheep in the flock of sheep following the shepherd. If you like to look at it like that.
And the funny thing is that such, you know, paths don't ask you as an individual to actually really think about things, you know, as the logo goes, you know, just do it. Yeah, just do it. I mean, just do this, do that. If you have this, you'll be great. You know, a lot of the media, a lot of the commercials, right? As you know, if you take this brand, you know, you find some superstars, some sports superstar drinking a certain type of a drink, and then that's it. He's the, you know, that's it. That's the best, you know, drink ever.
Okay, I think we have a caller on the line now. Assalamu alaikum. Suran,
yes.
assalamu alaikum.
عليك السلام ورحمة الله.
MashaAllah.
Yes, brother. Thank you for
عليك
calling.
السلام ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fadal, go ahead.
How are you, brother?
Fine, alhamdulillah.
Where are you calling from?
Fine. I'm coming from Iraq, Kurdistan, north of Iraq.
MashaAllah, from Iraq, from Kurdistan, MashaAllah.
Chuni Bashi.
Yeah.
That's my two words of Kurdi. Chuni Bashi.
Yeah, thank you very much.
How can we help you, brother? Do you have some input for today's show?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
You have any input for today's show? Are you still there, brother?
Yes, go ahead. Ask your question. Go ahead, inshallah.
Yeah, thank you. I want to give some suggestion for your program. It's a good topic about the da'wah. Nowadays, in humans, especially in Muslim society, the innovation and the shirk occupy our society. Until we need to purify our society from the shirk and the innovation, because you know nowadays in Iraq, you know, people they do many innovation, they do many shirk, they do the people they go to Mosul, they go to prayer, they fasting. If when they tell them, please don't do that, this is not according to the Sunnah, according to the Quran. They don't pay attention. They just follow the innovation and the shirk until we need to purify our society from the shirk and from the innovation. I think it is good point.
MashaAllah, that is an excellent point actually. The brother is talking about purifying the society, about da'wah from the shirk and the innovations. And that's an excellent point. And a lot of these things actually come from, through the media again, because they are lifted and portrayed as something good. Right? You find, subhanAllah, I find some of the Muslims who are, today I was looking, one brother was having on his computer, this bodybuilder. And he was wearing a cross. Right? This is a sign of shirk. He's wearing a cross, and he's like, this guy's his role model. He's like,
not just that. I mean, if we look at what we see on a wide scale, and I find myself often advising people, is we find certain football teams, again, they have the cross, the
I was
shirk.
just speaking about that the other day,
SubhanAllah. And I regularly tell people, alhamdulillah, you didn't realize, but the scholars have said, once you realize that, it clicks, oh yeah, this is this. If you keep on wearing that, the kufr is coming up on you.
As the brother was saying. And subhanAllah, believe it or not, most of these football clubs that have the cross, it is the cross of St. George. And the cross of St. George is the cross of the Crusaders.
Yes, very
so
bon.
People need to, ponder upon it. You can do some research. Don't just take my word for it. Research up, before you wear that shirt with pride, and you're willing to beat up your Muslim brother for it, because he's supporting another team. You might want to do a little bit of research on that and check out where that's coming from and see if you're proud about, what that stands for. Because there's something important what the brother said, and purifying the society.
I mean, we know that the Prophet ﷺ, when he sent Mu'adh bin Jabal to Yemen, he said, make sure the first thing you call it to is أن يوحدوا الله, that they make Allah one not Allah is one. How can they make Allah one? Meaning that they make Allah one in their worship to Him.
Yes,
they believe that it's only Him, and they implement this in action. There was only, that this is that only He deserves to be worshipped. So no doubt what the brother's saying, and that is obviously a cause of weakness for our ummah, and why we're all divided, and why we are straying away from the deen. Definitely, one of the major causes is some of the Muslims are entrenched in shirk and
they don't even know
in bid'ah, and we find so many popular speakers who may be out there in the West or wherever they may be, who have a beautiful way of speaking.
That's it.
But they're inviting people to go to these graves and do this shirk, and that is obviously one of the major points. And we need, first of all, role models to call the people
to the Sunnah, to the right,
to the
simple way,
the Tawheed, the worship of Allah.
Yes.
Because it's all good saying, be a good Muslim and dress like a Muslim and don't do this haram and don't smoke, and that the guy is still thinking that Allah is, a'udhu billah, in us, inside this room with us. Yes. He's everywhere. Yeah. He's part of us. He's part of this, a'udhu billah, part of this chair, which many people believe, even Muslims. Yes. So this is a very beautiful point that brother brought up.
And subhanAllah, as you said, a lot of the da'wah right now in many of the countries, the people who are taking over the platform are people who, need to pay attention. But as you said, because the way they speak, because the way they behave, that is so attractive, that is sometimes in line with culture in these so-called countries, and doesn't cause so much alienation towards the opposition, right? People find that they're very attracted to these people, to this da'wah, and they just finally just go ahead and say, how can you say these people are wrong? Look how how nice they speak. Look how beautiful their songs are. Look how what they say and so on. But we always tell people, just use your brains. Look at the proofs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses in the Quran. Look at the proofs that the Prophet talked. These proofs are simple. These proofs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it clear for everyone to be a hujjah against them, if they don't listen to it, an establishment, a proof against them. So definitely very, very important point that people need to pay attention to. And just to go back to the point that I was talking before, how do we reduce the effects of these modern day so-called models? We watch a lot of TV. People watch a lot of TV. People come back home, they're tired. Their pastime, to relax, is just to turn on the TV and watch a movie.
Which is why it's important to have channels like Huda TV, and it's important to, which mashallah Huda do a very good job, is to give a variety. That's what mashallah, we see. Okay, we have another call, inshallah. I think this will probably be the last one for tonight. Assalamu alaikum, Migar.
Assalam.
First of
all, I want to thank you people for your efforts, for the people, for the ummah, what you all are doing. May Allah bless you people, for you people and the Huda TV people.
Ameen.
Ameen, inshallah.
First of all, I would like to say that parents are the very, very most important thing for the children, to grow them up, to stop them to all these role models, what so-called the TV role models and other things. We should put the children from the childhood to stop all this, on to getting all these TV models. It helps them to motivate nicely. Because from the starting, we should tell them about the stories of our Sahabas and all the other things. It will help them.
That's correct. Definitely, sister. Definitely.
Tell you that.
Very important from a young age, indeed. Yes.
Because children, subhanallah, children, nurturing starts from that.
That's very, very.
So nurturing starts from that very early age, and it's called almost like, imprinting. You're imprinting certain, philosophies or aspects of life onto this person. That child is, as one of the philosophers used to say, that give me a bunch of children, I can make anything of them. I can make them doctors, engineers, thieves, if you may have, just by how you train them from a very early age. Right? And that concept of repetition, as I said before, it becomes something normal for you. It becomes part of your identity, of who you are. And that's why, subhanAllah, I don't want to touch upon this, and maybe inshallah we'll talk about it later on. But that's why, and a sister talked about child abuse, that we should speak about child abuse in one of the questions, and that's why we find that children who are abused at an early age, that their behavior will be affected in adulthood, and they themselves will become abuser, because they've just been on that path, on that they've been used to that, and then they themselves become like that, subhanallah. So this is something very important, that from a very young age, children are given those righteous models as examples, and they're being pretty much trained to understand the beauty of this.
That's right. And I think before, we're pretty much almost at the end of today's show, but I'd like to remind the viewers to please like our page on Facebook, A Time to Please Allah. You can also go to my page, Ismail Bullock, as well as Gabriel Al-Romaani.
Yes.
And please leave your comments. Next episode, inshallah, we'll continue this topic. Today we spoke about it in general and about the negative effects. We want next week, inshallah, to talk about the positive role models and go into some details. And we'll obviously, inshallah, without a doubt, talk about the most important role model to ever walk on this earth, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in our next episode. And you can check on the Huda TV's official YouTube channel for all of their programs.
And people have asked how they can stream live. And there is an option.
There is a stream live on the website. I know they did have some technical issues. I think
it's working.
It's up and running. But like I said, probably by tomorrow or the day after, this episode will be uploaded, as well as all the very other beautiful and beneficial programs that Huda show. So we'd like you to keep in touch with us and send us from now your queries, your suggestions for our next episode, which will be focusing on positive examples and the Prophet Muhammad. Maybe you have an example from the Seerah where the Prophet ﷺ, did a certain act which was really good to show children or to show people in general. Send us that message.
And we might not know, so share with us.
Share with us. I mean, there's so much obviously that we don't know.
So you can Google the Huda TV website, and just Google it, and you get the Huda TV website, and you find the streaming option. You can stream live, and they actually have on YouTube as well a streaming.
Yeah, even on their YouTube channel, they have they have a streaming.
So you can watch us live on TV because a lot of people they put some comments. They said not a lot, but some people put the comments saying that can we watch the program live online? And yes, you can. Yes, you may. And by just going to the website, 6:30 Mecca time, KSA time, and 7:30 UAE time. Inshallah, next Thursday.
Inshallah.
With your host,
Ismail Bullock.
And your host, Gabriel Al-Romaani. Inshallah, till next time. Inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all the Muslims. And we'll see you again, inshallah, next Thursday. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says, all who spend in good cause. Good deeds are opportunities, sparkling bright and true, raising you in the sight of Allah and adorning Al-Jannah for you. So rush to earn his reward, don't forget the